Next up here, we are going to start the lemon. So I am going to pull out, I have a cadmium yellow here, and then a cad yellow light. So whatever yellow you have, and one that's a little bit lighter, and then a white. And I'll be using a yellow ochre for some shadow areas, and a burnt umber for like the little pit area and some of the little speckles if you want a little bit more detail later on, and two shades of green, a light green and a dark green. But for now, we're going to start off with the yellow. I am going to use the cadmium yellow, the regular one, and we're going to do an outline of the lemon. And after you have your outline, I'm going to go ahead and fill in the entire shape that I made. And then I'm going to use my blender to smooth everything out. Next, I'm going to create some shadow areas with my yellow ochre. And you can always use the test strip there and see how well it's going to blend with your other colors there. Mine was a little bit close to the color of the paper that I'm using, so if yours is white, you might be able to see a lot better, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and blend in with my lighter yellow as well, just for some highlight areas. So going back and forth between the highlights and the shadows, just to bring in some of the shape here, make it look a little bit more realistic. Here I'm using some burnt umber, just a little bit at the tip and the end, and then some tiny little speckles just for a little bit of detail. And then you can blend them out with your blender. Along the side here, we're going to add a small lemon wedge, just as some extra practice. So I'm going to go ahead with that same yellow, the cadmium yellow there, and just have an outline. And then I mixed in a tiny bit of the lighter with the dark. Sometimes if you're trying to create really small details, it is a little bit difficult with these chunky oil pastels. I know sometimes I'll put down the color and then I'll go back in with my blender that looks like a stick and try to get some details that way. Or you can also try to sharpen yours to a point a little bit. If you can get depending on how big your set is of your oil pastels, maybe you can get them in a sharpener. But I used the yellow ochre just for a little bit of shadow areas in between the crease there with the skin and the flesh of the fruit, and then just a little bit of white And here I noticed that my lines were a bit chunky, so like I was saying before, I'm going to go in and try to make them a lot smaller with my blender here. And just keep going back and forth. And always make sure to clean off your pastels if there's some color transfer. Have a scrap sheet of paper handy there, and you can clean your blender off as well. And I'm adding some white just so you can see the yellow a bit better. The highlight, and then mixing my yellows again. So a lot of layering and blending. I'm going to add some extra white highlights on my bigger lemon here. And then blend in some of that lighter yellow as well. And then next up, we're going to add the leaves. So I have a medium shade of green here, and then I have a deeper olive green for some of the shadow areas. Just a little bit. For the last finishing touches, I'm just going to add some white highlights on the leaves here and blend them out.